please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item is F07. It's a report by the Human Resources and Corporate Planning Department dated June the 10th regarding Roberts Bank Terminal 2 Environmental Impact Statement Overview. There's also correspondence from Cliff Stewart, Vice President Infrastructure, Port Metro Vancouver, dated June the 17th, 2015.
Thank you. We have the report before you.
Move receipt.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Bishop, please.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. I really appreciated receiving these two summary documents because I forget how many pages the original document was.
1,000.
Yeah, 7,000, and we requested to get the executive summary. I did take the time to read through them, and just as a comment, the executive summaries are very readable. I would encourage people to thumb through them or have a look. The question I end up in my mind is, while the planning takes us forward to the 2020s, what is being thought of going forward beyond that? And the related question to that is, what is the tipping point? At which point can Delta no longer absorb, take, support industrialization of our areas? The report readily acknowledges that there are some negative impacts, not only to the environment, but also to our community well-being. I'm not expecting anybody to answer that. I am just putting that out there. It really hit home for me when I read the report that this is great planning going forward. They've been very honest about what the impacts are going to be. They have noted what the mitigations are. They've clearly stated what their values are against which they measure both their successes and the mitigation necessary. But it's not going to stop in 2020s, early 2020s, when the terminal, if it is approved, will be done being built. And that was the question I was left with. What is our tipping point? Where is the point at which we can no longer live with the industrialization taking place? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether we can answer that question, but Mr. Harvey or Mr. McGill, you're quite close to this.
It's a very relevant question, Your Worship, and one you've raised in Ottawa a number of times also. If the infrastructure is not accommodating the build-out, Your Worship, it is going to be a problem. So sort of a point that as staff, again, we've mentioned this to council over the years, and again, Your Worship, yourself in Ottawa, there's much studying to be done, and certainly, Your Worship, it is why we're very firm on the assessment being outside the gates. It needs to be.
Thank you. And it's hard to crystal ball some of these things, and we don't really know what's going to be happening in 2050. Maybe all the trade will be coming from the other side of the continent. I'm not sure, but I guess until such time as we don't import so many of the products that we use every day, I suppose the need will be there. But we're just not quite sure what form that may take, given the vagaries of some of these things. Councillor Kanakis, please.
Thanks, Mayor Jackson, and through you to staff, I see that we do have a letter in our correspondence pointing out the potential impacts on the environment and wondering if the environment can take it, following up on Councillor Bishop's point, and that there's a note saying that staff will be bringing forward a report on the Terminal 2 environmental impact statement and potential environmental effects later this month. So our staff is going to, from what I understand, take the 3 or 4 volumes of the 1,000 pages, especially the environmental impact section, and do an analysis, because Port Metro has engaged their scientists, a number of consulting teams who have provided the information. So a review of that data by our staff. Now, my question is, have we or have other municipalities in the process of reviewing such incredibly complex and voluminous data undertaken a third-party consultant review of the analysis provided by a project proponent in this instance?
Well, we are so hands-on with Port. I think we've got 12 different components that we're working on all the time. Mr. Harvey, in terms of your staff and how familiar and how closely they understand and track the information that we have here?
Thank you, Your Worship. And Your Worship, I've said to my staff that they feel they need help, we will go to council and ask for the funds, Your Worship. So I think it's going to be a year and a half to 2 years of work. And Your Worship, again, if we need assistance, we'll be asking council for the funds to hire the appropriate specialist. And Your Worship will also be using our Environment Committee and other committees as council is appointed to ensure we're receiving the benefit of some tremendous people on those committees as far as their thoughts on the development, Your Worship.
Thank you. And, certainly I have to thank your staff for putting together so much of this and tracking it in such major detail. Thank you for that. So I think it's quite apparent that if staff needs any assistance, they will come and ask us.
And just one follow-up, is there funding through the environmental assessment process to support that? Or is it, would we be paying for that ourselves?
Mr. Hart.
In Your Worship, we've tried for funding in previous projects, and the policy of the federal government is only to provide support to nonprofit societies and various groups, but not cities and municipalities.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion or questions on the report?
Question on the motion.
Oh, I see. Recognize Councillor Payton, please.
Thank you, Worship. I'll just quickly add that, interestingly enough, with the environmental assessment for Terminal 2, we have suggested that it well goes beyond the marine life environmental assessment, the shoreline, et cetera, et cetera. What we really need to do is focus on the impact to the community, the impact to agriculture and farmland with the expansion of Terminal 2. And when I say that, I talk about things that we don't necessarily think about with terminal expansion, but things such as roadways, railway lines, and power lines. Obviously, they're going to want to expand their railway lines all the way from probably Langley right through to Roberts Bank to double, triple, quadruple the tracks. And then a perfect example is what we're facing right at the moment with the expansion of LNG storage in Tilbury, which we didn't really have a big problem with. And suddenly they go, by the way, we need a huge amount of power to come from the Arnott substation. And we never told you about this, but we're going to put power line towers through farmland to get more power out to Tilbury Island to run this LNG storage facility. So these are environmental assessment things that need to be looked into well in advance of these things taking place, because there are often hidden things such as hydro lines and hydro towers going to service the extra power needed possibly at the port expansion.
Thank you. And actually, we did ask the minister two of the key issues. One, of course, local and regional road and rail impacts, and the marine mammals. So that is a copy of that letter is included here in our package, which we've already asked for. And so thank you for reminding us. Thank you.